before marrying him, I was used to just spending as I wanted without having to be accountable to anybody. But then once we got married, it's like, no, babe, you can't just keep buying 10 pairs of shoes when you've already got 20 in the wardrobe. But it's like, oh no, but I need a new pair of shoes. And yeah, so we had that tension for a long time because I always wanted to spend and he just didn't understand why I was always spending money. But I think once we got on our debt-free journey, what was beautiful about it for us, and I guess that's what made it a lot easier for us, is the fact that we were both on board from the get-go in terms of embarking on this debt-free journey. So it went from him always wanting to be good with money and me always kind of being his Achilles heel, I guess. It got to the point where it was like, oh, actually, no, finally she gets it. And now she's just gone from just getting it to really being the champion for this cause.
Welcome to the Wealth of Love podcast, where we want to empower, inspire, and encourage couples to build their wealth and their love together. Usually, money and relationships always get a bad reputation, but on this podcast, we want to change the narrative. Today, we have an amazing guest, Tolu Frimpong. She is a money coach, a personal finance guru. Her journey started off with over £30,000 in debt, and her and a partner worked together to turn things around for their family. And we are sure you will be inspired by their Wealth with Love story. Welcome to the platform, Tolu. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Tando and Lindy, for the lovely introduction. I feel good. I'm really glad to be here on the podcast with you today. Thanks for the invitation.
No worries. We're excited to have you.
Absolutely. We'd really love it if you could tell us who you are, how long you've been married, and what you do.
Okay, so as you know, my name's Tolu Frimpong. I am a finance content creator. I have been married now 11 years. So it was our 11th anniversary in July. So 3rd of July marked 11 years that we've been married and 13 years altogether that we've been together. So yeah, it's been quite a journey, but we're still here. We're still going strong. And yeah, that's my story today.
Love it. Well, congratulations. That is an amazing feat to be married for that long and still going strong. I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. So, Tolu, you've been very open about your journey regarding how you've paid off your debt in your family. You even wrote a book about it, and obviously people want to know more about your journey. They can read that. Now, one thing that we'd love to kind of dive deep into is just talk to us about going back to that time when you were in debt. It was over 30,000, and how did that debt impact you and your relationship with your partner or your family?
Okay, so gosh, going back to 2018 now when we was in a lot of debt or on our debt-free journey, I'd say the biggest impact it had on our relationship. To be fair, initially we didn't talk about it, so we kind of ignored it for quite a while until we could no longer ignore it. So there was a lot of tension in the household where we knew something was up, but both of us didn't have a clue how to sort it out. So we just didn't discuss it. So it was just it was like the elephant in the room, basically. So we know there's a problem. We both know we don't know how to figure this out. So let's just not talk about it and hope it goes away. So that's what we did for a number of years. So it was a very tense time. And it got to the point where we were struggling to keep up with our mortgage payments. And we missed payments, I think, 3-4 months in a row. And it's at that point, it's like, okay, no, this is getting out of hand. It's becoming beyond a joke. We need to do something about this. So I'd say it was a lot of pressure. It made you're married, so you know marriage in itself can come with its pressures. So if you add financial problems into the mix, it becomes quite unbearable, to be honest. So I'd say it was a very challenging time for us, for sure.
At what point did you then say, okay, let's discuss this? And who was it that actually initiated that conversation?
Surprisingly, it wasn't myself. It was my husband that actually initiated this whole conversation. So he came across this book by Dave Ramsey called The Total Money Makeover. And at that time, he had got into reading. So he was like reading a book a week. And Dave Ramsey's book was one of the books that he read. And when he read it, it was like, babe, you need to read this book. You need to read it. Back then, I did not like reading. Now I like to read. But back then, that wasn't my thing. So I don't even know. It was the grace of God that I actually listened and read the book. And I couldn't literally put it down. I was like, oh wow, like this is us. The book was speaking volumes to us. It was like, we need a total money makeover because the situation we've got ourselves in right now, we can't just keep ignoring it because we're going to end up losing our house. We're going to lose everything that we spent so long building and working hard for. So yeah, it was him that actually initiated the conversation. And it's so funny, fast forward all these years, it's myself that's now taking this on and is now sharing my story about money all over the internet when it wasn't actually me that started this financial journey. But I guess, yeah, that's where we are today. But yeah, it was definitely his idea, and I just literally ran
Mm.
with it.
I actually love that because I feel like you have something to share, even though you were like, it wasn't me that initiated it, but because you've been through it, you've got a voice where you can speak to people and people can be like, actually, if Tolu and Isaac could do it, we can do it too. So we appreciate the fact that you're
Mm.
actually speaking out about it. There's not a lot of people that would be comfortable enough to then speak out about it and like teach others how to get through it and just encourage others that actually you can be in debt, but you can also come out of it. So it's quite encouraging. So we found that in most cases, couples have different perspectives when it comes to money. So was this the case for you and your husband when it came to paying off your debt? And if so, how did you deal with those differences?
Okay, so I'd say to begin with, our relationships with money were very different. So this is pre debt. I was the spender, he was more of the saver. And
Mm.
that was probably the biggest contention for us in our early years of marriage, because he was always wanting to save and I was always wanting to spend. And right from the beginning, when we got married, we decided that to become one, and that means in every area, including our finances. So we combined our income, which meant that before marrying him, I was used to just spending as I wanted without having to be accountable to anybody. But then once we got married, it's like, no, babe, you can't just keep buying 10 pairs of shoes when you've already got 20 in the wardrobe. But it's like, oh no, but I need a
Yeah.
new pair of shoes. And yeah, so we had that tension for a long time because I always wanted to spend and he just didn't understand why I was always spending money. But I think once we got on our debt free journey, what was beautiful about it for us, and I guess that's what made it a lot easier for us, is the fact that we were both on board from the get go in terms of embarking on this debt free journey. So it went from him always wanting to be good with money and me always kind of being his Achilles heel, I guess. It got to the point where it was like, oh, actually, no, finally she gets it. And now she's just gone from just getting it to really being the champion for this cause. So, yeah, I think that was a good thing that we both came to the agreement to embark on that debt free journey together, and we saw it through to the end together. So I do feel for couples that I've spoken to in the past where they have the challenge where one of them is on board and the other person isn't interested, and it's like really trying to drag that person along. It's a big challenge when you're not both on the same page financially, particularly when you have combined your income, because now it's like I'm trying to build and you're just tearing it down, and yeah, it could be a lot of contention. But thankfully that wasn't our
Yeah, that's
story.
beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. And I think it's powerful that it's a powerful testament that, he was comfortable enough to approach you with that, knowing that you're both going to be able to work together as a team. Because sometimes it is hard, isn't it, to have these kinds of conversations with your partner because one, you're probably scared about how they'll react to it. And also equally
Mm.
speaking, you're probably scared of like the outcome of that conversation may end up going
Mm.
even worse and even uglier.
I was going to say, I think he was actually quite shocked at my reaction because usually, I mean, he's been trying to get me to sort my money relationship out for years, even prior to coming across Dave Ramsey. So the fact that I was able to listen and read the book, that was a miracle in
Mm,
itself. Because yeah, before that, I just anything he would say when it came to money, I would just switch off. I don't want to hear
wow.
it. I just want to spend. So yeah, it was a miracle in itself. So literally, I'm thankful
Yeah,
for that.
so it sounds like the Dave Ramsey approach was what you needed to literally be shocked out of the
Hmm.
spending and be like, yo, I need to be serious about this. Have
Exactly.
that, what does this say? That Gazette focus kind of thing, like where you're tackling
Exactly,
debt like there's
Giselle
no tomorrow.
intent. Yeah, that is exactly that's exactly what it was. And I think what really made it impactful, the Dave Ramsey method for me. I know Dave Ramsey gets a lot of flack, and he's not everybody's cup of tea. But for me at the time, what he gave me was hope. And at the time when I was in debt, I felt like my situation was hopeless, which is why I ignored it for so long, because I didn't see a way out. £36,000 is not a small amount of money by any stretch of the imagination. So I couldn't see a way out of it, which is why I ignored it for so long. But suddenly I've got this blueprint that has given me a step by step guide, and I'm seeing examples of people that owe £100,000, hundred and
Wow.
fifty or dollars rather, because he's American. So um, most of the people in the book were American, but seeing their stories of how they've overcome so much debt, it just gave me that hope. I was like, okay, if they can do it and they owe triple, quadruple the amount that I owe, then surely I can do it too. And I think once you see your situation from another perspective, another angle, and you see hope in that situation, suddenly it becomes achievable. So, yeah, definitely helped us a
No,
lot.
100%. I'm curious to know what was so like now you and Isaac had this conversation, and you're both on the same page now. You're both like, yes, let's do this, let's go for it. You've watched a couple of Dave Ramsey videos, you read the book, that kind of thing. So, what were like some of the things that you were just like, yeah, we're canceling this, we're stopping that, no debate, no questions asked, like things that you just both would look at and be like, that's a waste of money, let's not do that anymore.
Everything. I think one of our biggest expenses back then was socializing.
Okay.
So you wouldn't think it from the outside looking in that we were in so much debt, because to everybody else we could keep up. Like we could go on holidays, we could go to all the fancy restaurants, we was doing all those nice things, but it was all on credit. And we did that for so long, so nobody actually realized that we were in that mess. But obviously we knew the reality of our finances and knew that we couldn't afford keeping up.
For most couples, I'd probably say that that would be top 10 or top 5 easily of things that we spend money on, which is
Yeah.
the social aspect of life, going out with people, meeting up with people, going to birthdays, going to weddings,
Hmm.
going to staycations, and like everything, barbecues, like
Yes.
whatever you name it, we are there kind of thing. Because, like when you get married, all of a sudden, the things that you do together is like, oh, if we're gonna go somewhere together, then let's do it, type of
Yeah.
thing. Because it's not like we have a long list of things
Mm,
or a long list of places that we can go to
exactly.
together. So, and I'll probably say most couples would spend their money
Exactly.
that way easily.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that we had to do. And that was a big challenge, saying no to people, because when you're so readily available to go everywhere, all of a sudden you're like, oh no, sorry, I can't make it. Oh, sorry, I can't come. And what we hadn't done at the time was let people know about the situation we were in. So nobody knew we were trying to pay down debt. All they knew is that all of a sudden, Tolu and Isaac are always saying no to going places. And it's like, what's going on? What's happening? Do you not like us anymore? And it's like, yeah, it was awkward navigating that season. But obviously, fast forward now, 2 years or so after overcoming that debt, now I'm talking about money and sharing my debt story online. Now my friends are like, okay, it makes sense. They can kind of connect the dots.
I think that's one of the things actually when you're repaying debt, because family and friends may not understand. Because it's like you guys will have made a decision and you're like, okay, this is what we're doing and we're going to stick to it. How did your friends and family actually, how did you actually deal with family and friends who didn't know what you were going through, but were still trying to say to you guys, oh, Tolu and Isaac, come to this barbecue, or let's go on this holiday? How did you deal with that?
I mean, it was awkward to say the least. I'd say relationships were, they weren't strained, but they were a little bit. So it went from being invited regularly to functions to not getting as many invitations. So yeah, it was only fast forward, like I said, when I started sharing my financial journey online, I was able to revisit those conversations. And they're like, okay, so that's why you was acting funny back then. Because we just didn't address it, I guess, in a most mature way and just be like, look, I don't have a budget for this right now. This right now is not within my financial remit or financial plan, so I can't do it. We just kind of was just like, oh no, too busy, or sorry, can't make it, without necessarily being transparent about our financial situation. But I guess you grow and you learn through things.
No, 100%, 100%. And to be honest, it's common, isn't it, that when you and your partner are going through something together as a family, you may not be willing to share it, at least in the early stages as you're going through it, because there's so many emotions attached to it,
Yeah.
and you're also just trying to figure out yourselves, like, what are we doing, how are we going ahead with it, that kind of thing. So, you find that it's quite common that you don't say anything until either towards the end or even after, like, you've gone through it, like, oh, by the way, this is the real situation, this is what was actually happening, and stuff like that.
But taking you back to that moment when you actually then paid your debt off, what was that feeling like? And what's the first thing that you did to celebrate? Like, actually, we've paid all the debt off because that's a really big goal.
It's a huge goal. And when we made that last payment, it was so anticlimactic, if that's the word. Like,
Mm.
it, what I thought it was going to be like and what it was like was so different. Like, I thought, I'll just be over the moon. I don't know. But I was happy, don't get me wrong. But it was like, oh, wow, that's it. Like, we've done it. It just felt so weird. It was a strange feeling to think, after all of these years, all these months of trying to pay this down, now all of a sudden it's just over. Now what, kind of thing. So it was a strange feeling at the time. Obviously, we were over the moon, I guess, internally, but I guess maybe it was more the shock
Mm.
and yeah, it took a while to sink in the reality of the fact that we were no longer in bondage. It was, yeah, it was amazing, but it wasn't what I thought it would be. I guess that's why, maybe because I'd built it up in my head to be, I don't know what I thought was going to happen on that day, but it didn't happen. So I was just like, oh, okay, now what, kind of thing. But it was still amazing, and we didn't do anything to celebrate. I get asked that question a lot, like, oh, how did you celebrate? I'm like, I don't think we did anything. We were just sitting there looking at the bank balance and so confused as to why there was no like thousands of pounds there on there anymore. It's crazy. But yeah, no, it was good. I'm happy that it's over. Definitely don't want to go back there again anytime soon.
Yeah. How long did it take you to pay it off?
2 years it took us actually in the end to pay it down, and it probably would have taken us double the time if we didn't pay a lump sum at the end, because we had remortgaged our house towards the end, and we used some of that to clear the balance on it. Otherwise, yeah, it probably would have taken double the amount of time.
Yeah, which is a smart move actually. But it makes sense, why when you now had paid it off, that it's like, oh, okay, like what now? Because spending 2 years doing something like that, it's not like an instant switch where you just wake
Yeah.
up and be like, oh, I'm debt free. It's almost like, no, I'm still. Wait, no, I'm not paying off. Okay, what do we do now then? It's like this really confused moment.
Ex-
Like you're just like, what's this like? It's
exactly.
different if you paid it off in like, I don't know, 3 months, because then it's at least you kind of didn't
Exactly.
live in that paying off debt
Yeah.
mindset. But 2 years is a very
That's
long
exactly
time.
it.
That's 2 Christmases, like two
That's
birthdays
exactly
that you
it.
probably just said to yourselves, we're not celebrating it, we're not doing
No
anything.
Christmas presents, no nothing. Exactly. That's exactly it. And I think that's kind of what inspired and birthed this whole platform that I started online was, okay, we've paid off all this debt, now what? If we don't have any kind of goals that we're working
Mm.
towards, I know myself, and old habits do die hard. Even though, yes, we had been so good for all those years when we had that goal of paying down debt. Once you become debt free, it's very easy to be like, okay, now what? And
True.
before you know it, you're back in debt again.
Yeah.
So I needed that accountability and that focus, so I could be like, okay, I've paid off my debt. Now the next goal is this. And at the time when I started my platform, the goal was to pay off our mortgage early, because then that gave us a financial goal that we were now working towards. And the idea was for me to keep myself accountable by sharing it online. And obviously, that goal has since changed, but I'm still sharing online my journey and just helping other people on theirs as well.
That's
That's
powerful.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. And like you're saying, sometimes I feel like as people, we need to see someone else's testimony and hear someone else's testimony to then be like, oh, actually, if Tolu could do it, I can do it too. It's encouraging, and it
Hmm.
really does encourage other people, and just lets them know that actually you can do it as well. So we are glad that you are speaking out and sharing with other people as well. How would you say paying off the debt has impacted your relationship now that it's paid off?
I'd say we have a lot more peace. We're a lot more relaxed. So since paying down debt, my husband's gone part time. When we was on that debt free journey, I basically didn't see him. I was a single mum looking after my two kids
Wow.
because he was working constantly overtime to kind of accelerate those debt repayments. So I think since becoming debt free, we've really been able to breathe and been able to be intentional with our relationship and intentional with our children. And I think the whole mindset that we have post debt is very much, I won't say minimalist because I'll be exaggerating, but we're not as materialistic as we once
Mm.
were. So whereas before all our money, well, my money, not really him, I was the spender, like I said before. So whereas before I would just buy for the sake of buying and just always buying stuff that I don't necessarily need. Now I'm a lot more intentional with my finances. So I would rather invest it in experiences with the kids or experiences with my husband, as opposed to just buying my kids, I don't know, designer gear and just wasting money on things that are not purposeful, in my opinion. So yeah, it's definitely helped us be more intentional with how we spend our money on things that matter to us individually, as a couple, and as parents as well.
Yeah, do you know what's so powerful about this? I think you mentioned two things I'm going to pull out. The first thing is peace, which is that like in your relationship, you're no longer stressing out, you're no longer dancing around this elephant in the room. It's like
Mm.
now there's no elephant in the room. You got rid of it, kind of thing,
Mhm.
and everything is now nice with your
Exactly.
finances. But secondly, the fact that your husband then changed his working pattern to be part time. So I'm assuming that so that it gives you more flexibility for him to be at home and things like that. Uh, it's
Exactly.
and I think that's the reason why I think that's powerful is because most people might think to themselves, well, let's wait until we're rich or let's wait until we
Mm.
have reached financial independence, whatever the case is, before making those decisions. But it goes to show that actually 9 times out of 10, I'd say that debt is what's really holding people back. And once you become debt free, you can really design your life in a very different way. And I
Yeah.
think that's so powerful to see that.
So true. No, you hit the nail on the head there, Tando, for real, because that is the thing. 5 years ago, was going part time an option? Absolutely not. There was no way that we could even dreamt of that being a reality for us. And here we are 5 years later. I mean, I got made redundant at the start of the pandemic. Again, it's only by the grace of God that we had paid down that debt before I was made redundant. Because had I been made redundant when we was in that £36,000 debt, yeah, I don't know. I
Mm,
don't know
Mm.
where we would be today. We probably would be homeless for sure,
mm,
because there's no way he would have been able to be paying the mortgage plus all our other bills, plus the cost of living now that's skyrocketing. It would have just been insane. So no, it's definitely, yeah, the grace of God that we've been able to do things in the order that we did it. So debt, like you said, that paying for the things of the past, it really does have an impact on the future that you can live. And I would say as well, with the him going part-time thing now, I remember when he initially said he was going part time, he did get a lot of people had a lot of reservations about it, because it was like, why would you do that? Like, you've come so far, you paid off your debt, now you can do all of these other things. Why are you gonna sacrifice all that income? But it's
Yeah.
time. Time is the thing that we want the most, right? We want that time and the flexibility and freedom to spend our time in the way that is purposeful to ourselves. And for us, we have a very young family. Like my boys are 3, 5, and
mm.
7. And yes, you could say, let's just bang it out, work hard, work hard, work hard for the next 10 years, so that in 10 years' time we can retire and, then live happily ever after. But in 10 years' time, my eldest will be 17.
Mm.
That by 17, it's a bit too late to now be
Yeah,
saying, I want to invest time in these
yeah, man.
children. He's going to be like, no, dad, you wasn't there. You was busy working,
Yeah,
hustling. You don't know me, I don't know
yeah.
you, kind of thing. So it's like, for us anyway, the balance was important. Having that, yes, we need income, obviously, we need finances to be able to raise our children. But how much is enough? And I think for us, when we done the maths and we calculated, you have to know what your purpose is, right? Like, what is the most important thing for you? And for us, our family is the most important thing. Okay, so we want to be intentional with raising these children. We want to raise them. We don't want the TV, the computer, the school, or anyone else to raise them. We want to be intentional with how we nurture and nourish these children, and that's only going to happen through time. Like, and it's limited amount of time we have anyway with
Mm.
the children once they go to school and everything else. So for us, it was important to make sure that there is that extra time spent with them at home. And yes, it was a sacrifice financially, but we're still comfortable. We're still living. I mean, we went away in April. We're going away in the summer holiday. So they're still doing stuff. I mean, it's not international. I say we're going away. We're going to somewhere in the UK, but they're still able to do stuff. And it's because, yeah, we just, make those sacrifices. So yes, maybe I'm not buying them new trainers every week, but we're then able to invest that time with them. So I guess it's important to have your own plan, basically, and know your why, know your purpose, and have those goals and kind of work your way
I love
backwards.
this, honestly.
Yeah.
I love this so much because I think, yeah, as you say, a lot of people kind of say, let's really stack up now, and then 10 years later we'll retire.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
to your point, I'll put my hands up. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I was 15, 14, 15, I didn't want to hang around my parents. Like I'm gonna hang around my boys. I'm not doing that. Like
So,
so it kind of makes sense what you're saying, right? About
But
like
on the flip side, when I was like 12, 13, them years, them teenage years, I used to wish, oh, I wish my mom would work less so then we could see her and spend time with her. Because then she was always like, oh, I'm going to a
see,
shift. And then you're like, okay, weekends here.
that was
Oh,
me.
I'm going to
Yeah.
a shift. We're going to school in the and you're like, okay, but when do we get to see you? Because obviously she would work nights. So she'd get home in the morning, we're back home at 4. And then at 7, she's like,
Yeah.
okay, guys, I'm leaving. So I think like your boys will really appreciate what you're
mm,
doing for them because some of us, when we were growing up, we were wishing we had what you guys are actually doing for them at the
mm,
moment.
mm.
Yeah, that was definitely me. And I guess that was a big part of it for me and my husband, because of our experiences growing up. And I guess that's kind of what always happens with parents, right? But when you're trying to be intentional, you're like, okay, the things that I didn't have or I lacked, I want to give my kids a different
Yeah.
experience. And we're not all perfect, we're not all going to get it right, but you just got to do the best you can, right, with the resources you have and the children that you've been given. So that's kind of what we're trying to do, and hopefully, God willing, 10 years down the line, we'll see the rewards
Yeah.
of our investment in these kids. And financially, we are still doing things, so it's not like I'm just at home not working and he's just at home not working. We do still work, but we like literally cut our cloth according to our size. So we try not to do too much and just live a modest life, I guess you can say. And yeah, just invest in those children, man, because they are the future.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Um, just to draw you to the last question, what would you say to other couples that are in debt but are actually currently working their way out of it?
So what I would, oh gosh, this is a loaded question, to be honest. So couples in debt working their way out of it is a really good question, and it's a loaded one because firstly, I'd say you need to get on one page. So I've worked with clients where it's you're married, but it's the wife that's in debt and she's the one dealing with that burden of the debt. And I feel like that is not a healthy place to be in a marriage personally, because the way I see it is you're a team and you should be a team in all areas. And I feel like it will have a negative impact on a relationship if it's just one person carrying that weight. So, like I said, when we were in debt, it was strain, but it was strain on both of us. So I couldn't imagine it just being on my head and he's just going about his business, everything's fine and hunky dory for him, and then the stress is just on my head. I know it's a touchy topic, and everyone has their own views on it, but I personally think first of all you do need to sit down and have that conversation and see how you can come on a page together so that you can work through that. Because I think especially once you say you add children into mix and everything like that, it just becomes too strenuous to have that burden just on one person when you're in a relationship. Otherwise, let me just be by myself and figure this out
Yeah.
by myself. But I think if we're in a team, let's be a team all the way through. But yeah, that's the one thing I would say. And then just advice on couples in debt: have that conversations. Don't be like us, bury your head in the sand, ignore the situation, hope it will disappear. That debt is going nowhere. If anything, it's going to keep growing, right? That elephant is going to go from a baby elephant to a big, full grown, queen size elephant. So you want to address it and have those awkward, uncomfortable conversations. I think also couples, even prior to marriage, or you're dating, you're engaged, you need to have these conversations about money as well, because you'll be surprised how many people enter into marriage not even
Mm.
realizing that the other person has debt because they sold you a dream. A lot of guys can sell girls dreams. I know people that have been, I don't want to say tricked into relationships, but you thought he had it, but he doesn't really have it. So it's important to have conversations, honest conversations, that don't make assumptions based on what somebody's
Yeah.
showing you. Because, like I said, when I was in debt, nobody knew I fit the part. I dressed well, I carried myself well, I was going out, I was enjoying, but I was broke. So don't just assume, don't take things at face value. Have those conversations, I would say, definitely. And just the other thing is just, I'd say, be easy on yourself. Like, debt, yes, it's horrible, and you feel like the stupidest person ever to get yourself into that mess. But I'd say just recognize you're not the first person to do it, and you won't be the last. And just know that you can get out of it. Like, don't feel discouraged and feel like this is the end. This is just part of your journey. But if you stay the course and you make those sacrifices, because it is going to take sacrifices to get out of debt. There's no two ways about it. You can't keep living a life that you was living before you got into debt. You're not going to get out of debt that way. You're going to have to make some cutbacks to widen that gap between your income and your expenditure, right? So I would say to do that too. And yeah, just have conversations as well with one another. But also, if I don't know, if there's someone older that you can trust in, that can give you a bit of wisdom that you can glean from, I'd say have that conversation with them too, because the older generation, they know a lot of stuff too. Like, we give them a lot of bad rap, but they actually have wisdom there too. If you have the right person, go to the right adult, because not everybody is going to give you sound advice, but obviously apply wisdom there. And yeah, if you want to talk to me, my DMs are always open, and I'll definitely be happy to have that conversation with you as a couple. But I'd say definitely don't ignore it, and just know that you can do it. Have that positive mindset and that champion mindset, and know that, yeah, this is a season. I can get out of the season. Yes, I'm in debt, but I'm not a failure. I can overcome it. And I think, yeah, mindset is everything. So once you believe it, you can literally achieve it. I know it sounds so cliche, but it's actually so true. Like, I remember the other day, I was driving home with my husband. I just had the thought, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is so true." Like, people say thoughts become things, but I don't think I ever really deeped it until I was like, "Raw, everything that exists in this world was once in somebody's head. It was once a thought." and it was manifested from their thoughts. I'm like, okay, there really is power in the thinking. So if you're always thinking, I'm going to stay in debt, I'm never going to be able to overcome it, I'm never going to be able to get out of the situation, what's going to happen? You're just going to find ways to remain in debt and remain stuck in that situation. So yeah, I'd say positive mental attitude, have those conversations, find an accountability partner, find somebody older that you can glean from, and just get a plan in place. So create a budget. Oh my gosh, I haven't mentioned budget this whole conversation. Create a budget. In that budget, make sacrifices, see where you can cut back on expenses, etc., in order to accelerate those debt repayments, and then also see where you can earn extra money. So income is a big part of paying down debt. So I think that's one thing we don't realize. If you've been in the same job for like 4 years and you're just getting that incremental pay rise year on year, it's time to jump ship and go for a higher paid role elsewhere. So you can automatically, sorry, increase your income by, I don't know, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, even 20,000. You'll be surprised that the pay rises that are out there if you just apply for it. But just don't sit down and do nothing. That's the message. Sermon over.
No, I think with that, you basically gave people the blueprint to become debt free
Yeah.
and to basically achieve what you've achieved in 2 years or less or more. It doesn't really matter when they achieve it.
Mm,
Just
just
do
do
it.
it.
Just go
Yeah.
for it. Take the first step. Pick one of those things that Tolu's mentioned, but just go for it and then take it one day at a time, and go for it. Now, before we kind of bring this to a close, we've got some quick fire questions that we want to ask you.
Oh, it's exciting.
So brace yourself. Nothing scary, we hope. But yeah, so the first question is what we're going to call first dance. So first dance at a wedding is when newlyweds dance together for the first time as a married couple. Now, at Wealth with Love, when we say first dance, what we want to know is, did you and your partner step on each other's toes the first time you started managing money together?
Yeah. I trod all over his toes, definitely. I definitely did, because budgeting is a thing that I manage now in our household. But when we first got married, my husband did his own budget in his head, kind of thing. But I wasn't on his wavelength at the time, and like I said, he always wanted to save. I always wanted to spend. I was always looking for opportunities to blow our money, and he was always trying to stop me spending that money. So we definitely butt heads a lot at the beginning, and I trod all over his new shoes for
I
sure.
think we were the same actually, because I think you don't realize that actually you come in with two different ways of dealing with money, but we got there eventually, but we were exactly the same. So for this,
Yeah, no, I can imagine. So who was the saver? Who was the spender out of the two of you?
oh, were you the saver?
I'd probably say I am the saver, but that's not necessarily because I don't not necessarily because I save. I'll probably say I don't spend as much as I should. I'm just not really a spender. I think that's the difference. But then I would say Lindy's a saver and a spender because when she does spend, she's always looking for the cheapest deal. So it's like a really weird
Oh,
mix with her. Whereas for me, I'm just like, I don't really spend. But my issue is when I spend,
Oh, he spends.
I'm
yeah.
gonna like I'm gonna really
Okay,
spend.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
So you're the kind of person you'll spend like a large amount on one item rather than buying loads and loads of items for that
Exactly.
same price. Yeah. No,
Exactly.
I like to get value for my money. So I need shopping bags to know that I've gone shopping. Yeah. I can't just leave with one item. I will not be impressed. And I was gonna say, so how did you then come into alignment financially in terms of, or are you still kind of the way you are and you just figure it out each month kind of thing?
No, it's actually gotten better over time. I think because we started doing the whole spending allowance every month, everyone gets the spending allowance, but it's
Mm,
always the same on both sides. So I feel like that's then curbed the spending. And obviously, if you want something that costs more than your spending allowance, you're then saving up for it, or we have a chat about it. And we're like, okay, let's buy this one thing, type of thing. But then in terms of saving, I've also started to understand that, you know what? I don't have to save everything, because I think growing up when
mm,
time like with single mom, sometimes things were hard and you're having to really struggle to make ends meet. So then when I was then older, I just thought I have to save everything, save every little penny, save everything. And
mm.
it was a mindset that I started to have. But then over time I realized that actually no, there's you can have a balance, allocate some to spending, allocate some to saving, and allocate some to giving. So have different things that you allocate your money to. But it's taken a
Mm.
while, but it's a lot better now than it used to be.
No, I love that. It's all
Yeah.
a journey, isn't it, that we're all on? It's
Yeah.
the intentionality and really doing that work to unpack it and understand the connection between why do I like to hoard money versus why do I like to spend money. So no, it's amazing that you've done that work and come to that realization. And it just goes to show that it doesn't matter that, or should I say, it goes to show that two of you can have two
Mhm.
different money personalities, but you can find a way to make it work if you're willing to do so. So yeah, I guess that's encouraging to those listening in to know that okay, I'm a spender, my husband's a saver, but it doesn't mean we can't find a way to make this work for us. So that's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
100%. And that actually leads us on nicely to the next question. So, the next question is cake cutting. So, during cake cutting at a wedding is where both partners cut the cake with one knife together. So, at Wealth with Love, when we ask for cake cutting, what we're really asking is what's one thing that's really helped you and your partner to work together as a team with money?
Oh, that's a really good question. What's one thing that's helped us work together as a team when it comes to money? I think having financial goals. So having a plan, sitting down and having a conversation. Where do we want to be in 5 years? Okay, so where do we want to, if we want to be there in 5 years, what do we have to do over the next 5 years in order to get there? Because we both have a plan and we're clear on where we're trying to get to, it's a lot easier for us to come into alignment when it comes to
Mm.
the distribution of our income and where we put the money. So yeah, that's definitely helped us. Having goals and having a plan is, I'd say, the thing that's helped us most come into alignment financially, for
Strong,
sure.
very strong. Love it. So, question number 3 is bouquet toss. So, bouquet toss is where the bride tosses the bouquet over their head. And whoever catches this bouquet is supposedly the next one in line to get married. At least that's the hope. But at Wealth with Love, when we're asking about bouquet toss, what we want to know is what top tip would you give to other couples who want to build their wealth and their love together as a team?
Oh, so I guess I touched on this earlier actually in terms of the coming together. Like I really strongly do advocate for that as a couple or as a particularly a married couple. We're talking about the married couple coming behind me. I would say one thing that really helped us was us combining our finances and
Mm.
working together towards our financial goals. So I think in marriage, it's a partnership. The way I see it, anyway, it's a partnership. It's a union. Two of us are becoming one. So we kind of need to come into alignment with our financial goals and what we're trying to achieve as a couple. Because I think it's a team sport. The way I see marriage, so it's, if we don't work together as a team, it's not going to work. So the advice I'd give is to really sit down and have those difficult conversations about money and set a plan in place and kind of create a vision for yourself. Like we're married, but where are we going? What's our destination? What are we trying to achieve during this time that we're here on earth as a married couple? Are we just existing, or do we want some kind of purpose? Like literally just have a vision session. Like, okay, where do we want to be? Like I said before, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. What does that look like? Okay, financially, how are we going to get there? And kind of literally mapping it out and planning it out. And I think transparency is important as well. I think full transparency in relationships when it comes to money. Like I'm not a believer anyway in like secret stacks of cash. I don't know. I don't like the idea of it. I know people do it. If it works for you, I mean, I don't know how long that's going to work for, in all honesty, because I don't know. I think in relationships, you should be open and transparent, because otherwise, if you're secretive about money, what else are you secretive about? So yeah, I would say have that transparency, be open about money, and yeah, create a vision for this life that you're trying to build together and work together in unison. I mean, you're gonna have, you're gonna clash along the way, but that's all part of the fun of the journey. And just yeah, stay together and just be committed. Yeah, be committed and stay focused on those goals. Work together as a team and encourage each other on that journey as well, because you're gonna have your highs and your low days. Like, you're gonna listen, I'm the money lady and I still mess up on the
Mm.
journey. But having my husband in my corner, being like, don't worry, babe, we've got this, just dust yourself off, keep going, it helps. I think definitely be each other's cheerleader, each other's support, encourage one another, and just work together in unity. And yeah, you'll be good to go.
Oh, love that. Love that one. So, with the final question, photo album. So, a photo album is a collection of memories to remember your special day with. At World with Love, when we say photo album, what we want to know is what financial legacy would you love to pass on to the next generation?
Oh, that's a loaded question as well. I like that. Financial legacy that I would like to pass on to the next generation is I want them to va- value their time over money. I think would be a big important thing I want them to understand, and I want them not to be materialistic. So that's something that I'm really really trying to impart in my children. It's something I'm trying to unlearn myself and trying to make sure I don't repeat that same cycle with them. So I really want them to grow up knowing that money's a tool and that money can be used to serve them and meet needs of others and meet their needs as well, but don't idolize money, don't worship money, don't be too consumed with money. Like, money's in abundance. Money, you can get money. I want them to know that money is always available, but I don't want them to disrespect money in that they're just frivolous with the money. I can't be working hard to build this wealth for you guys to now come and squander it all. No, I want them to have a healthy relationship with money, and I want the next generation to know that you like you can build whatever you want to build. Like I said earlier, whatever the mind can conceive, it can achieve. So I really want them to have that mindset. I don't want them to be limited in their beliefs about themselves and what they can achieve. Like, I literally want them to think they can do the impossible, because for me, I had those limiting beliefs and I'm still unpacking them now at my big age. So if I could impart that in the next generation from young, that no, you can do whatever you set your mind to, that if you work hard you can achieve great things. All of these things is what I'm trying to impart in them. But I don't want them to disrespect money in terms of them just wasting and squandering money. Like, I don't want them to be like that. But then at the same time, I don't want them to hoard money, and I don't want them to be too materialistic. So it's trying to help them to find that balance and help them to respect money, because at the moment, my children, they don't respect money. They just think money grows on trees. So again, this is unpacking and unlearning that I'm trying to do to them. They're still young, so I think I'll be okay. But because you, like, going back to what I was saying earlier about you wanting to give the children the life you never had, that's what I was trying to do with my children. But in doing that, I feel like I spoiled them a lot. So birthdays, for example, rather than getting one present, when I was a kid I got zero presents, right? So I'm like, when I have kids, I'm going to give them the world. So now on their birthdays they think it's normal to get 20 presents. That's not a normal thing. Why is one child getting 20 presents from their parents? That's just ridiculous. So this year I already told them, like, from last year, that their birthdays this year they're going to get one present, and they cried they got over it. This year I stuck to it. They got one present each. But because I had prepared them for it and I've already started to teach them about money, they get it now. Whereas before, last year, they were throwing presents like, oh, this is not good, I don't want this. Excuse me. How dare, oh, more clothes again. I'm like, you ungrateful little rat. Like, how dare you? But like, it's not your fault anyway. It's not your fault. So yeah, this year, I've been, since their last birthday up until their birthdays this year, I've been trying to teach them, like, listen, money doesn't grow on trees. You can't just say, I want this, and it appears. Like, I work hard for the money that I have. The things you have, it took time for mommy and daddy to get the money to buy it for you. So I just want them to really understand what money is, but then I don't want them to worship money. And let me not keep repeating myself, but yeah, those are the things I want them to know about money. Hopefully, somewhere in there's an answer to your question.
No, that was beautiful, honestly. Tolu, it has been such an insightful discussion with you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing your journey with us and how you guys have turned turned things around in your finances, in your household, with your family, and now you're turning things around for your future as well. And I just think everything that you and your partner are doing is actually really, really incredible, very inspiring as well. You know, you're really outliving your values. You know, you're not just talking about them, talking about value and time over money. The fact that you are both, you know, kind of built a lifestyle where you can spend time with your kids at this
Yeah.
moment in time, whilst they're still growing, is testament to that. So we just want to really acknowledge that and also thank you for that. So before we close, if people want to connect with you, learn more about your journey, where can they find you?
Okay, so I'm Tolu Frimpong on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Pinterest. Don't worry about Pinterest, but mainly those those places. And I have a website as well, tolufrimpong.com. And yeah, just shout me out on any of those platforms. YouTube, I'll be back shortly. I haven't been on YouTube for a while, but my channel is still there. So definitely go ahead and subscribe. And yeah, that's where you can find me. My Instagram is probably the best place if you want to actually speak to me directly. Send me a DM, or you can book yourself in via my website, tolufrimpong.com, for a coaching call or anything like that.
Awesome, awesome. Well, everybody definitely check Tolu Frimpong out. It's been an amazing journey. Everything that you will see on the page and the platforms, I'm sure will be very, very helpful to you. Thank you so much, Tolu, for joining us today on this episode. And we have had a good time and a
Yeah.
good chat with you. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys. I've really enjoyed our conversation.